Hello. Welcome to day 7 of Find What You're Looking For, brought to you by Foundational Things. I'm Donna Harris, and I'm really excited to get into this last stretch of this live streaming series about internet searching and how to have better searches and just some of the ins and outs of the things that go into searching and our lives as people who search the internet an awful lot. So, as we get into this last stretch, I'm not only excited because of the content that we're covering, but I'm actually looking forward to getting back into another kind of routine of providing content from foundational things that's a little bit different than what I've been doing the last couple of weeks for doing the live streams. I like to keep things fresh and mix stuff up a lot. So there will be more live streaming series. They'll probably look different than this one. I've been learning a lot, but I'm really excited to have this time with you. And for those who watch live and for those who come along later, I'm so glad you're here. I thank you for giving me your time and your attention. There's a lot going on in life. So I'm really glad to have you hang out with me and to learn some stuff here. So let's get into this slide deck here. And we can get my mouse to wake up. That'd be nice. There we go. So we've been talking about search operators. We just wrapped up talking about search settings and search engines and our web browsers and using different aspects of browser functionality to adjust our searches. And now we're getting into the search context stretch where we're looking specifically at what we're doing basically and why we're doing it and the results that are coming back. And we're going to spread this conversation out over 3 days. This is the first of those 3 days. Today, we're going to talk about search context, specifically focusing on the idea of authority in the results that we're looking for. So if you've been following along with this series at all, you will have noticed that there are times where I draw attention to Google's information about how many results that are coming back to us. So there could be the purpose for that, besides just the awe of the fact that there's that much to come back and how quickly it comes back and yada yada. My main focus has been like seeing the difference as we've made some changes when we've refined our search, and the number of results maybe has gone up or down depending on what we're trying to do. And so that gives us a little bit of an idea. Yesterday we had a search result that only had just over 100 results. And so that was really neat to see because we knew it was hitting some very specific criteria and we actually found what we were looking for. But then there's the other side of this. If something is handing me back, even 100 results, but if something's handing me back 100 results, a million results, a couple billion results, no, I'm not going to look at everything. But how I look at what's coming back really matters. So this is that word there that I have, authority. That's where the authoritativeness of the results matters. This is where we look at what is the source of this information. So it's a little bit of a brief touch on the idea of digital literacy. There's a lot of stuff out there and there's a lot of stuff that's really easy to access, but how do we employ some thoughtfulness with our search so that we are making the best use of the search results and making sure that we're getting the information that's appropriate for what we're looking for. So there's different contexts and there's different levels of authority, and there are different things that we need to care about. And there's times we don't need to care at all. So, looking at that, that's all part of context. So, another aspect of context that I want to touch on today is the idea of, again, going back to what search engine we're actually using and what kind of built in tools or features are coming back to us as part of the search results. And just really today, I'm just going to highlight some of the nifty things that maybe you're already aware of. Maybe you use a different search engine and it looks a little bit different, or it's a feature that's not available. It's neat to know what else is out there. Um, and to sort of see what kind of utilities and tools that are just naturally being presented to us as part of search results in some cases, especially with Google. Google does this a lot. So we're going to look at those things. And yeah, that is our big focus for today. So let's get to it. Search context. So what do I mean by search context? Well, I've broken this down into a few different points. We'll start off with the idea of what we're searching for in the first place. Like, what are you searching for? What is your intention behind your search? That makes a big difference, right? So if we're searching and it's just out of curiosity, a lot of the searching I do is just out of curiosity. There isn't some great thing that I have in mind for what I'm going to do with the information. It's just I'm watching a movie and I see an actor and I'm like, who is that guy? I know that guy from somewhere. What am I watching? I look it up. A lot of people do this, right? There's this, it's that second screen. We don't even think about it this way. It used to be a big deal. Many years ago, it was like the second screen experience, realizing that people were starting to use their tablets or their laptops or their phones when they were watching TV or something like that. But it's just second nature to so many of us now, where what are we searching for? We're just casually searching for the name of that guy. Who is that guy? What have I seen him in? What do I know him from? And then, you do your search where you plug in what you're watching, and then you get a cast list and the name of the character or whatever. And it's like, oh, it's that guy. And, you go through this sort of journey, and it's curiosity, right? It's, maybe you're watching with a bunch of friends or your family, and it's like, I think it's this guy. No, he wasn't in that movie. That's this other guy. So maybe you use your curiosity to settle some kind of disagreement or some kind of inquiry that you all have, your mutual curiosity. And, so that's not uncommon. Sometimes our search, the intention is we want to learn beyond curiosity. As part of curiosity, a lot of my learning, a lot of my education stems from curiosity still. And it's a very powerful motivator. But the idea of learning something, I don't want to put something in and say, give me the equation for this thing. Give me the equation for velocity. Okay. And there will be a lot of results for that. I want to make sure that, I can get given something that is called the equation for velocity. But if my result isn't of a good quality, then I may be getting an equation that actually isn't for velocity or is somehow flawed. And we trust our search engines an awful lot. They have a lot of the magic behind them that is actually involved both physically, both manually and like digitally, right? Like the actual computer doing things, and then people coming into the equation and checking the quality of results. But we put a lot of trust into the magic that goes into the background that good results are coming back. So it's highly likely if I do a search for the equation for velocity, because I'm trying to learn and use that with some effect, that I'm going to actually be given as one of the top search results the actual true answer to that question. I'm getting the actual velocity equation. But that isn't always the case. Sometimes something sneaks through, or sometimes it's not as straightforward as something like the equation for velocity. it really matters. How important is this? Is this something that's affecting your life? Is this something that's affecting your health? Is this something that's affecting your finances? All of these things slightly alter the intention, because the desire for accuracy in our information increases as the stakes increase. So if we get incorrect information about something, and how do I treat such and such, and you have bad information, you could actually make the situation worse. So that's no good. No good at all, right? So all of that comes into context and our intention, knowing what we're searching for. What are the best places to go for what you're looking for? So again, going somewhere with authority, going to a search result that has authority, but there are also some places to start your search that are better than others. And we're going to dig into this more with day 8 session, where we're going to look at using search engines that are a bit more not customized or specialized in a certain kind of thing. So searching for engines, engines, I just said engine, searching for images, searching for videos, searching for certain kind of information or certain things that are a bit more specific than the general search engine. So we've talked about those search engines, but we haven't done much with them yet. So tomorrow we're going to dig into that a little bit more with some specific examples that are fairly common that people are going to be interested in, I hope. But starting in the best place for your intention and the type of thing that you're searching for. Sometimes the best place is still going to be something like the Google search engine, but using maybe some of those advanced techniques to filter down on specific things. If you know that you're looking specifically for a PDF file as your result, then as you have your criteria for whatever you're searching for to be in that PDF file, you can use Google to specify with advanced search or some of the other filter tool options to get a PDF file specifically as the result. And that narrows a lot of things down, or an image file of some sort, right? So the best place to go for that could still very well be a general Google search or one of the other general search engines. But this is all part of context. We talked a bit yesterday about location in terms of setting our region. But when we think about physically where we are, this is often affecting our search results. And we're going to look at a few examples about that from the searching perspective. Day 9, the last day of the series, the intention is to be looking at our mobile devices with search in mind. And mobile devices and search context for location, those two things go together really strongly, because the difference between me doing a search in this room here and me doing a search when I'm traveling has completely different implications. So that's something to be aware of and something to know, and how that affects you. And this kind of ties back into some of the other things that I was talking about. What audience are you seeking information from? So you're the audience seeking the information, but who are you seeking the information from? So again, this circles back to the idea of authority. So the first example that I want to look at here, so we'll talk about this too before I go to example. But the first example that I'm going to look at together today is a Google product called Google Scholar. And Google Scholar is, yes, it's still Google, like I just said, but that has an audience of academically, like peer-reviewed journal style, like content. So you're seeking an audience with experts. And why do we know they're experts? We know they're experts because it's the world of academia. You know, there's a lot more to it than that, but it's a place to start. If you know that you need peer-reviewed journals and articles, and you're moving in a certain kind of space, maybe you're doing research, Maybe that's for school. Maybe that's for work. Maybe that's personal and you're trying to understand more about something. Um, there's so many different kinds of journals and articles and things that get peer reviewed that, again, it's not specific to any one industry that does this. Every industry seems to have journal articles written about it, or um, like entire journals dedicated to that field or to that area of study or of research or whatever. So there's just a lot out there. So going somewhere like a Google Scholar is maybe the audience that you are seeking. And then, so again, there's a couple of levels to this, right? The audience that I'm seeking information from could be like yesterday. I did it yesterday being day 6. I did a Dairy Queen search. I was looking for the current Blizzard menu, but I wasn't looking for it from Dairy Queen. I was looking for what people were saying about it. So that was my audience. My audience wasn't actually Dairy Queen. My audience, the audience that I was seeking information from, was not Dairy Queen executives or their marketing people. It was the people talking about Dairy Queen and Blizzards and the current menu. And, that was where I was looking for my information from. That was who I was looking for my information from. So there's that. And then there's just the general idea of coming back to kind of that point number 2, where are the best places to go in the first place. So the idea of going to Google Scholar for some academic related, that higher sense of peer reviewing and knowing that people are editing and looking at other people's information and research and things like that. Or going to YouTube to search for YouTube videos specifically, or going to the Creative Commons search to look for things that are available to be used without worrying about infringing on copyright. That's also a sense of this, seeking what audience we're seeking from. So the authority of search results, when we're talking about search results, I hinted on this already, touched on this already. The search result impact, does what you're searching for, what you're looking for, does it impact the quality of your life in some way? So if you get the wrong information, are you just going to be misinformed? Are you going to be kind of misled? Or are you going to lose a lot of money? Are you going to make a situation with your health worse? Are you going to be misled to the point of becoming an endangerment to yourself or to society? Like, the authority of search results really matter, because it's really easy to just put stuff up on the internet. And while there's a really interesting search engine evaluation process that goes on behind the scenes that actually does involve real people, as well as all the technology, there's still a lot of stuff out there, right? And we have to be advocates for our own brains and for our own lives as we use search engines, to be able to actually think through what we're doing and what makes sense. So we need to consider the source of the information. This is the most obvious with things like news and things, perhaps because that's one of those things that touches us every day. Where are we getting our news and our information from? And that's contentious. And I'm not trying to get controversial here, but I mean, we already do this naturally. To an extent, we gravitate towards the thing that we believe to be authoritative. But when it comes to, I'm not going to go to the Dairy Queen website to find that to be an authoritative source to talk about the equation for velocity. Like, consider the source, right? I don't want to be, you can go to places like WikiHow and Reddit and Quora and get information, but you are looking at it and saying, okay, some of these people are experts and they're doing really neat things where they're identifying when they're experts. Like, this is my credential. This is why I have authority on this topic, versus someone who just knows a lot. And they might be right. And they might just be talking because they think they know. So, you have to wade through the noise. You're not always going to be able to filter out the noise. So you have to be aware that when you get a result, you need to consider whether that is like a result that's coming from somewhere valuable. We did this. I forget what day it would have been, day 2 or day 3, when we were looking at search operators. We went and we searched on, we were looking for the list of like the operators for a specific search engine. So we went to a Google webpage, but I did a search, and part of the reason was to demonstrate this. We did a search. Let's do it. Let's do it right now. I forget exactly what search terms I put in, but I think it was search operators. Yeah, people are looking for this. Search operators in Google. So there's probably lots of interesting things that come back. This is a great example. Actually, I'm really glad that we did this live, because this isn't quite the same search as what I must have done before. So, yep, you could do, here's the first result that comes back. Moz.com, SEO Learning Center. Maybe they're great. Maybe they're wonderful. Maybe they have authority in this. I'd have to do research. I'd have to click on the link and look at the about. I'd have to read about what is Moz.com and all that stuff. But that, personally, when I look at that one, that's not the one I'm going to click first. Yeah, it looks like that's what I want. Search operators, Google search operators. Cool. Same with this next one. I'm not knocking what these are or where they're coming from. But this is basically the process that I did. The only difference was I think it actually came back as the first result when I did this the other day, last week. This website, same thing, right? Here's a complete list. The date tells us maybe that's not the most current, but maybe it's pretty current. But guess where I want to go? Support.google.com. For this, Google's the authority on their search engines, on their search operators, on their search algorithms. Doesn't mean they share everything with us. Doesn't mean it's even going to be a complete list, but it's still going to be where I choose to start. And then I can branch out. I can go to some of those other things and see, what are they saying different? Are they talking from a place of authority or not? But I'm going to start at support.google.com. Okay? Because they should have this answer. Indeed, well, like Indeed.com, sure, they do a lot of stuff. I know who that is. That one I've heard of before, but that's like a job finding website. And so they're trying to help people use what is their search engine for looking for jobs, Indeed.com. It's just another example of a search engine specifically for what? For looking for jobs. Again, coming back to context, if that's what you're looking for, and there's search operators, you can use theirs, or you can use Google search and do searches. And they're just trying to tell people, here are your options. But like any of those websites, they're running on a search engine. Maybe they're leveraging Google search. I don't actually know enough about what they're doing specifically. But the next here, overview of Google search operators, you might click on that one, but you'd be disappointed in the context of what we were talking about back in day 3, because developers.google.com is also a Google website, but it's coming from, again, a different context. Unless you're coming to this search as a developer, this probably isn't going to be super helpful to you. We're coming at it from a regular user, a consumer of the product, an end user. So the idea of refining web searches and getting this information directly from Google is actually more preferable to us, because the development side, that's the code side, that's the back end where all the the fancy stuff is happening on another website. So someone working at Indeed.com, if they're using Google search as developers to make their Indeed.com search engine work, which they may not be, I don't know, but if they are, this would be a site that that person would care about and they would be searching for. Doesn't mean they're not going to look other places, doesn't mean that you shouldn't look other places, but it does mean that we are considering the authority of the information. So sometimes we don't want to go to Google because we're saying Google's going to be biased towards the things of Google. But who's the authority on Google things? Google. So this is an example of that, and one that we've looked at before. Consider your intention. We've already been talking a lot about that, but your intention matters. The authority of your results matters depending on your intention. I will look at all manner of websites that have probably not a whole lot of credibility, that have a whole lot of ads and maybe are a little bit spammy sometimes, when I'm in the context of trying to figure out who somebody is in a movie. Having said that, quite honestly, I'm much more likely to go to a site that I recognize first. So imdb.com, for instance. Again, what is that? That's a search engine specifically for things relating to what IMDb stands for, the Internet Movie Database. So that's a play, and they've been around a long time, and they, continue to build up, and there seems to be some level of, editing and improving and all this stuff. And so if my intention is not going to seriously impact the quality of my life, I'd be a little less worried about the source and the authority of the search results. I can I can do enough funny little searches that don't matter, that kind of maybe cross validate for myself that, yeah, okay, well, IMDb said this, and this other site said this, and this other site said this, and those things all line up. One thing to consider with doing that is that there also are a lot of web pages that are just sort of junky, that just steal results and ideas from other places and then just glom them all together on a page. And if you find yourself reading one of those, just step away. If you're finding you're reading something that's a search result where, it looks like it's answering your question at first, like there's a big headline that answers your question, but then you read on and then you scroll down and then the absolute opposite of the thing you just read was there. And then you read another thing and then some other sort of weird quasi kind of thing is shared. What is that? That's just a really shady side of the internet that draws things that are unrelated into a place, and it doesn't give any good information. It totally lacks authority, it lacks context, it lacks quality, and it's not going to do anything bad in one way, but it's going to do bad things up here because it's going to mess with your mind. It's going to confuse you, it's going to steal your time. Could be something sketchy on it that could affect your computer. That's less likely, I think. A lot of the times it's just really, I don't understand that whole part of the world, so I'm not even going to try to understand why there are web pages that are like that, but there's lots of them. So if you're reading something where I'm like, this doesn't jive, this doesn't make sense, this contradicts itself, just hit that back button and get out of there. Close that browser down completely, like just you don't need that. And then considering your context, where you are, what your needs are from this search. Okay, so what did I want to do before? Yeah, so we're Google Scholar. Sorry, and then we'll come back to neat things. That's what we have to look forward to. Neat things to know. Okay, so how do we get to Google Scholar? Well, if we're not sure, we can Google Scholar. But scholar.google.ca or .com, that'll work. But here we have a little bio here. And then this is another neat thing. I can give you a preview, a neat thing. We'll just talk about it in context here. Google does this. Some other search engines do it in a slightly different way, but I think they kind of probably they copy off of each other and someone starts to do a neat layout or do something else, then a lot of other search engines may follow, do something similar. So we've got something here called a search results. This is a card. And this is sort of Google's way of summarizing, hey, here's this sort of nice looking overview of something that we think you'll know. And usually the information from here pulls from something generally accepted as authoritative, such as Wikipedia. Wikipedia is another great search engine, really, an encyclopedia of knowledge where you can find stuff about all sorts of things. And it's managed by a bunch of smart people, like a whole community of like thousands and thousands and thousands of people all around the world. So it's just giving the overview here and then also saying other things maybe that are similar. And, it's giving suggestions. It's showing us images about that thing. This funny little thing is their logo, in case you're not familiar with that. So I'm going to click on, and then you can see actually there's that little logo there. Google Scholar, this is specifically .ca. .com is, again, going to be a little bit similar. So you can see here, we've got a search interface, all the operators and things that we've been looking at, those things you could use here, follow a lot of those same approaches. You've got, if you're specifically looking for something related to case law, which I won't be, but if you want to do that, you can do this. This may be google.ca, but this is coming up with American stuff. Some of the stuff is stuff I worked with actually many, many moons ago. Oddly enough, in a previous role in industry. So that's great, but not particularly relevant to me as a Canadian. There'll be other things in other places on the internet that aren't Google Scholar where you could search for laws and things, rulings and things in Canada. We'll go back to articles. And what would be interesting to concussions in sport. We were looking at football on day 6 as a region example. So let's say football. So this is an example. It looks very similar to search results that would come back from just regular Google like we've been doing, but you can also start to see there are some differences, right? So we're looking at finding ourselves in a place where we are seeing things, where we're looking at authors and we're looking at which journal something is coming from. We're very aware of the date. A study that came out in 1971, for instance, depending on the nature of the study, may still have some kind of valid effect. But on the same topic, a study that came out last year may shed new light. It may have been a better run study. It may be that they had a whole lot more sample data to work with. Something like this, you can look and see things based on range. You can sort by date specifically. Right now, Google's doing its best by default to sort by relevance based on the words that I put in. I didn't try to use any fancy search operators. Yeah. So if this is your context, if you're wanting, you can go to Google, let's do it. We'll go to google.ca and I'll put the same words in. What did I put in? I put in concussion in football. Okay. What's coming back? First result, vox.com. Great. I'm sure that's really interesting. I'd like to think that they did their research. Might be a worthwhile thing to read. But if I'm looking for something that is going to really crunch down to the depths of, a study and what was happening and this and that relating to this, Vox.com isn't where I would go. Wikipedia might be interesting. The one thing about Wikipedia articles that is nice is that the things that they claim, they're supposed to be well cited. So at least if you read an article in Wikipedia, if you haven't done it before, or you don't do it much, I'll show you what I mean. All these little numbers here, these point to studies, these point to articles, these point to other websites online, New York Times. So you go down to the bottom, there's a big long article. This is a big topic. This can be a place where you can actually get other ideas for where to search or where to find. Doing research is a whole other topic and a whole other series, I guess, really. But if you're looking for authoritative information, one of the nifty places that you can pick up on a few things actually is in the reference section on a Wikipedia page. But coming back here, so here's one that I would find. I don't know what this is. Maybe that's good. This is blog right there, but that doesn't mean anything because so does the Harvard one. So that's not necessarily the thing to have rule that out. But I have no idea what cognitive fxusa.com is, but I know what Harvard Health is. And it's the .edu site. And so it's an educational institution for Harvard University and their health college or whatever. So yeah, I probably researched there. However, look at that, 2010. There's been a lot of stuff in the news about concussions in sports and in football and the changes in how the attitudes are approaching it in the last 12 years. So, it depends what you're looking for. This is talking about assessment. This is talking about helmet design. Maybe we need to refine things down. But just this general search, you can see a completely different thing. Yep, and we're looking at dates. We're looking at older dates. Let's see if there's anything that's come back since 2018. A different set of stuff comes back, right? And some of these things will probably refer back to those other things. So it's a big rabbit hole, but it's the right kind of rabbit hole to go down if this is the kind of information you're looking for. And this is the kind of context and the kind of audience that you're searching for your information from. All right, let's look at another example. Where's this going to take me? Let's find out. I can't remember if it's going to take me to Google or Bing. So, okay, if I type in Big Apple, this is interesting. So I'm in Southern Ontario in Canada, and I typed into Google Big Apple. So most people, a lot of places, typing in the Big Apple would take you immediately to New York City. But if you're not from this area, you might not know this. And even if you are from this area, you might not know this. Somewhere on the 401, heading east, just past Toronto, there is a place that's called the Big Apple. And what is it? It is literally a big apple. And it's the home of pies, bread, and tarts, as you can read here with me. And it's a really nifty place. And it's just a cool landmark when you're just driving along that part of the 401 and you can see there's the Big Apple. I've been to the Big Apple now. You can say this. It's in Colborne, Ontario. So what just happened here? Context. So, yeah, people also ask, why is New York called the Big Apple? What is meant by the Big Apple? This is a search result as well. The search result is giving us a card, if you will, that shows us other things that people are asking that are similar to the thing we just searched on. So that could be helping us sort of think, is that actually more interesting and more appropriate? And you can take a look at that. Who owns the Big Apple? You can find out who owns the Big Apple. Apparently, someone named Doug Rutherford. Don't know if that's still current or not. But then you come down to the Wikipedia, the first thing that comes back for Big Apple is New York, New York City. But then there's a secondary result here that's Big Apple, Colborne, Ontario. TripAdvisor, Big Apple, Colborne. Um, so this is interesting, right? Um, so where you live, depending on where you are, this might not be what your results look like. So this is where we're looking at context based on location. So this is an example that's specific to me. Let's do something a little bit more international. If I just type in Tivoli, this one's funny to me. So there's my general area in southern Ontario, and near me there's some housing complex called Tivoli. There's Tivoli Films, Tivoli Towers. So like it's a name that's kind of common, but this isn't what I'm thinking about when I just type in Tivoli. So it's trying to give me context about what's around me with that kind of name, but I haven't provided it with more context. Tivoli Audio, my best bet there is that seems to be an American based audio technology equipment kind of company. And for some reason it ranks high. And maybe because I'm in North America, there is nowhere near me that sells this. I could maybe buy stuff online if they do online sales. But this is really kind of funny because it's really, especially because of my search was very vague, it's trying to give context to my search based on where I am. And then you get into the Wikipedia. Tivoli. Oh, so Tivoli is a town in Italy. Tivoli Gardens, which is also just known as Tivoli, is an amusement park in Copenhagen, Denmark. Maybe that's what I meant. But do you know what I meant? I meant a place that doesn't exist anymore, was in southern Ontario. If I type in, even if I just type in Tivoli, Ontario, there we go. That's what I was talking about. That's what I was thinking about. It needed a little bit more context. There was a place called Tivoli Miniature World that I remember as a little kid that doesn't exist anymore, that had miniatures and all this stuff. And so in that case, especially because it was something historical, I couldn't maybe have told you where it was. I was a little kid. I didn't drive us there. I just know that there was a place that all of a sudden I could see small versions of, Big Ben and the Kremlin and the Eiffel Tower and all of this stuff. And it was super cool. And it was a fun time to be alive in Ontario in the 80s, I have to say. And, but it's not going to come up with that without a little bit more help, a little bit more context from me. But it didn't take very long. It didn't take very long for me to figure that out. But it's really interesting because internationally speaking, depending on where else you are in the world, if you typed in Tivoli, something else is maybe going to come up. If you're in Europe, you're not going to probably see Tivoli Audio. You're probably going to see things more relating to Tivoli Gardens or Tivoli Italy. Again, if you're not putting anything else here. All right. So one of the other things that we talked about was this idea of the source. Sorry, I have to adjust my chair here. So just one word on that, especially if, again, we're talking about wanting to look at the source of our search results as being authoritative. The higher the stakes, again, I'm just going to say it's this important. The higher the stakes, the more important it is that you consider your source. So I'll give you an example without typing it in. But we often use the internet to search for medical stuff. We often Google our symptoms. We often ask, the internet, do I have XYZ condition? Talk about mental health, for an example. There are lots of quizzes out there on the internet. If you type in, do I have XYZ mental health condition? you can find a quiz all sorts of places, and you can screen yourself for depression or anxiety or some condition. Um, and maybe there's a little bit of value to something like that. But if you're really interested in whether, well, first of all, you should probably see a mental health professional or your doctor. But if your starting point is gathering that information for yourself, and I get this because this is also me, I'm talking to me. If your starting point is gathering that information before you make that move to go see a mental health professional or a doctor or something like that, again, the stakes are higher with what you're searching for. So make sure that you are, if you're wanting to do some kind of a screening tool or a quiz, that's fine. But don't just do the one that some pop culture website is offering. Okay. Look for something from your mental health association or from the public health unit or from like an established hospital in that has credibility, or a university that has a medical school that has some credibility. And stay away from things that are opinion based. Stay away and then the other neat thing is that you get this assessment, maybe a screening tool or something that says, hey, do this tool, and then go take it with you to see, when you go see your doctor, when you go see your mental health professional, take it with you so you can discuss what's on here. Okay. Context matters. Your source matters. The higher the stakes are, the more important it is that you are drawing on authoritative things, and that you are not trying to self-treat yourself. So like things about health, physical or mental, any kind of things like that is super important. Things about money are pretty important. Don't just listen to anybody that says, hey, you want to make lots of money, like do these things, and say, oh, wow, they seem to have lots of money, let's do these things. You need to, and if you don't know what that is, that's where you get to do some research and figure out, okay, yeah, like, are these sources, are they legit? You've searches for your searches. Sometimes you have to like look out for yourself and make sure that information is coming from somewhere good. I say this as someone who is working to build a reputation based on my experience and my education and my continuing education and curiosity. And, I don't have authority in one way yet. I do in other ways. So it's reputation and building up that authority as a search result, as something that's going to come up on the internet. It really matters. So that's looking at it briefly from the other side. Let's better look at the time here. Okay, winding down, but we're pretty good. Trying to keep it within the hour. Let's look at vitamin B12. So again, interesting. So what happens? So this is a neat example. So this kind of moves us into from what we were talking about. So this is B12. Talking about B12 is a health issue. So it matters that we're getting good information about B12. I didn't type in deficiency. That's a whole other thing, but that's usually why people are taking B12, because they have a deficiency. But you can see what Google is doing here to organize things. Yep, there's advertisements. Again, you'd have to do your research. Are these just places near me? Are these products that are just well ranked? Are they well ranked because they're high quality? Are they good places to buy from? Are they reputable? That's a whole other thing. You can search stuff. You can ask around. You can do all sorts of stuff. I'm going to kind of ignore the ads. But there's that coming back again. It's targeted. But we can also see, okay, our first result here looks like it's likely coming from what I believe to be an authoritative source. We've got a harvard.edu website again. Google's even asking, yeah, I think that's helpful. I'm just going to let it know that I think that's a good first result that comes back. We've got a Wikipedia card based here on Wikipedia results saying, defining for us, presenting to us what is B12. You're maybe looking at that saying cobalamin. That's not what you searched for, but it actually is, because that is another name for B12. So, we're looking at WebMD, depending on what you think there. Generally speaking, they do seem to have some good information. The Mayo Clinic. So this is where it's important as we search to consider what's out there. So if let's type in deficiency. In that case, I didn't type it in, actually. I went with one of the suggestions, right? Because often we have suggestions provided. So again, what's coming back? If you have vitamin B12 deficiency, anemia, going to a website that tells you about that, or if you think you do, or someone you love has this condition, Johns Hopkins Medicine is a pretty good place to get some information from. It has a good reputation, is well respected. We see some things that are a little bit more current. They're popping up as top stories in the news. But then this is where you have to say, okay, but what is Health Essentials? What is the Insider? I don't know what the Insider is. Is the Times the New York Times, or is it like, the random place in the middle of nowhere Times? I don't know what that is. We've got the Times of India. Is that the same here? So these are not journals, but journalistic. Like, someone has gone and written stuff. You'd have to look at them to see whether it's applicable. To me, I wouldn't go to a news story to learn about vitamin B12 deficiency. I'm going to go to, one of these medical based things. The government in the US, and this one actually even looks like it's going to be, it's a book. So this one's something that is more academic, peer reviewed, because it's from a book edited. Okay, so we've got these different cards, and it's the different ways that things are presented, but it isn't just for visual effect. It's for looking at different kinds of things. I was going to do one more example, but I think I'm going to move right on to neat things to know. So that got a little heavy, is the wrong word, but it's serious. Like, I take it seriously. I want people to take their search results seriously and understand more about the context and things like that. But a couple of neat things just to lighten it up, just as we head off for today. Some neat things to know. So yeah, Google specializes in the way that they organize the results in the cards, and we saw that, and that's basically what we've been using today, is Google. But they also offer interesting built-ins. And if you haven't noticed this before, it's a really cool thing to look for, to use. Also it's always fun when you maybe discover, like, oh, cool, there's that one too. Other search engines, they may emulate things like this. And that includes the cards and the organization, but these built-in utilities and tools. Some do this, some they offer their own spin, some you maybe like better than Google if you try a few, but it certainly isn't seen everywhere. The things I'm going to show you right now, Bing doesn't seem to do these, at least not today, not for me. But I'll give you an example. So here I am, I'm in Windows, just because every once in a while I like to represent Windows, because it isn't all about Mac. It just happens to be that I use Macs primarily. So if I type in calculator, here we go. So Bing does it for this one. So that's great. So we can see in Bing, we've got the cards thing. We've got The first result that comes back is ads and where I can go buy calculators that I might be interested in buying. They do this idea of the card. Maybe that's a little prettier depending on your aesthetic and what you like. And what a calculator is defined by Wikipedia. But look at this. This is a calculator. I can do 2 plus 2 right here, right in my web browser, right from the Bing search engine. Isn't that exciting? That there's this built-in tool that lets us do this. Well, I do that here too. So I kind of like this better. For this one, I have to say thank you, Google, because you know what? The first thing I'm going to want to see if I type in calculator is a calculator. I think that's really smart. So when we see Bing, Bing's like, here's ads, here's where you can buy a calculator, here's what a calculator is, and all this stuff. And Google's just going to say, you know what? Here's your calculator. Guess what? You can do 2 plus 2 right here. Woohoo. Awesome. And then there's other calculators online and if you want to do different things. And that's great. It is interesting to me that they don't have anything over here. Not quite sure why that's not showing up, but that's okay. So what other neat things? Did you know? This is the fun part. I can't spell. That's always fun too. Stopwatch. Did you know that you can just go right to stopwatch in Google? And again, a lot of search engines do these things. So it doesn't have to be Google. You don't have to change search engines. Try it in your favorite search engine. If you're using DuckDuckGo, let's see. Let's do stopwatch. What happens? There we go. Looks quite a bit different, doesn't it? It allows us to do laps and things. And that's kind of neat. What does this one do? This one's just a simple stopwatch. But this one's like ready for us. It says like, yeah, you're going to need to do, you're going to need to do splits when you're using our stopwatch. That's just who you are. We could type in timer. We could type in all sorts of other things. So you can see here, the timer's already here. So if you want, I've used these things and then you can make them go full screen. You get a 5-minute countdown. It's a 5-minute break for a meeting that you're in or something. You can just put this up on the screen and let it count down. You don't even have to do anything fancy. You don't have to go to YouTube. And everybody can see, okay, yeah, you got 5 minutes for this task or 5 minutes for this break. Or you can change it. You just type, we're going to have a 25-minute break. And then it just starts to count down. It's really neat. Really neat. That's quite a break. I wouldn't give anybody a 25-minute break. Okay. So what else? Conversion. So you're like, oh, that didn't work. Well, how about if I want to say, just tell what the conversion is, like 25 kilograms to pounds is a suggestion. Then all of a sudden, what is it again? We've got that tool right there. Yep, there's lots of great sites that do these things. I used to use different sites all the time, but now you can just type it into Google. You probably already do this and don't even think about it. But again, these are special tools that are built in. What's the thing that you're looking for? 25 centimeters to inches. There we go. So a lot of things are doing this now. A lot of search engines are doing this kind of thing. And then once it's open, then you can change it. And did I say kilograms? I really just meant grams. That's a big difference. But allows you to tweak that. You won't be surprised by this one if you use Google at all. Translation. I just type in translate and it brings the tool up. Yep, there's translate.google. We could go here. We can use it as an interface all its own, and that's grand. But if you're just in the middle of this and you want to figure out what's football, you're pretty sure that's something that you heard somebody say, or something that you read. Well, what is that? Oh, it's football. Okay. So yeah, you can do this with weather. You can do this with weather and the location. This is what I'll leave you with. You try it. You just type in the word weather, and it should just pop up with a thing that shows the weather where you are. You can type in, like in Google for sure. You can do this. You can type in like time, and it'll come up and it'll tell you the time and the time zone that you're currently detected in. You can do this. It's pretty cool. All right. So those are neat things that are just there. They're ready for you. What information are you searching for? What's your context? It's pretty cool. Context matters. We talked about that a lot. It just does. And I don't think anybody is going to debate this, but I don't think we always think about it either. So hopefully this gets you thinking about it. And then you can just refine your search results based on revisiting what your context is. So if you type in something like Tivoli, like what I did, and you're seeing like all these things and you're like, that's not what I meant. You can think about it from the context of, well, this is telling me specific places here and here, and then this is talking about geographic places. I'm talking about somewhere in Ontario. What was it? I don't know where, but it was Ontario. So I typed in Ontario, and then Wonder of Wonders, the first thing that popped up was the exact thing that I was looking for. And that one was fun because that's historical. That isn't even a place that exists anymore. Google's not going to tell me, on the maps, this is this place where this place once existed. At some point, I'd be surprised if Google doesn't start doing, this is just a random thought now, the idea of a historical map, right? Because when we have physical maps, you can look at, this is the way things were. This is the way the world was. I have a map somewhere in a drawer in this house where it's probably a street map of my city from 1985. And I can tell you right now that it will not be the same. I can overlay that over the map that exists and it'll be a lot bigger, but it's really, really cool to see, okay, yeah, but this is what it looks like. So that's a random thing. When the Google people start watching all my videos, there's an idea for you. If you haven't used it yet, you're welcome. All right. And then we looked at the neat built-in tools and the layout, and we can use those things to our advantage. What's next? Context-specific searching. We touched a little bit on that with doing academic stuff and peer-reviewed articles using Google Scholar. We're going to look at ideas around images and videos and usage rights. And we're going to be using, a lot of the same kinds of tools we talked about, but we're putting a different spin on it. We're talking about it with respect to our context and why we're starting to search in the places we're going to go and search and how we're going to use those things. It's going to be a lot of fun. These things actually kind of open up my world for searching a few years back. And I thought, this is really cool. I wish someone had shown me this sooner. So I'm glad to be able to bring this and show it to you as well. So in the meantime, check out the free companion guide, Searching Made Easier. It's totally free. Just ask for you to give me your email address so that you can get this. And you can totally unsubscribe from that if you don't want to. But I really want you to stay connected and be part of this community. And the same with this idea of the news and reminders email list, to be able to keep you up to date with the latest videos, upcoming live stream series, anything that I do in the future with courses or different kinds of offerings for educational purposes. I just want you to be able to reach out. And then I'm also going to have opportunities where I'm going to be asking you for things and you for information. And I want to have that way to be able to be in touch. So I really, really encourage you, please sign up for emails. And beyond that as well, check out the other videos on the channel. Check out the other videos in the series. There is a playlist. This video will be up sometime tomorrow. And then it'll be there for future reference for free forever. As long as YouTube keeps it up, I'll be keeping this up. So that's it for today. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day 8 and having a whole lot more fun together. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, take care.